The city of York was quiet that evening, cloaked in a thick winter fog that drifted down the cobbled streets. Eleanor, a history student at the university, had stayed late in the treasurer's house, cataloguing Roman artifacts for her thesis. She loved the quiet, the way the air seemed to hum with centuries of history. But tonight, the silence felt different, heavier, almost watchful. She lingered in the cellar, hunched over a stack of Roman pottery shards. Her lantern flickered against the stone walls. That's when she heard it, a faint clinking of metal. She froze, straining to hear. The sound grew louder. Then, unmistakably, came the measured beat of marching boots. Eleanor's pulse quickened. She knew the stories, the Roman legion ghosts of York, marching along the old Via Decumana beneath the streets, replaying centuries-old patrols. She had always been skeptical. Now, skepticism fled with each echoing step. Through the fog, figures began to emerge. Soldiers in gleaming armor, shields held high, helmets crested with red plumes. Their faces were pale, expressionless, their eyes locked straight ahead. The sound of trumpets rang out, though Eleanor saw no musician. Her first instinct was to flee, but as she turned, the cellar walls seemed to stretch, elongating unnaturally. The door she had entered through was gone, replaced by an endless stone corridor lined with marching soldiers. Panic clawed at her chest. One of the centurions stopped in front of her. His gaze was cold, calculating, yet oddly, expectant. Eleanor's voice caught in her throat. She tried to speak, but no words came. Then the legion moved again. Slowly, they began marching down the corridor, their boots hitting the stone in perfect rhythm. Eleanor noticed something horrifying. The soldiers were stepping on thin air, their forms were not entirely bound to the cellar. They were layered over reality, shadows of the past pressing into the present. Eleanor stumbled backward and found herself transported to the streets above. The fog had thickened outside, but now she could see the city differently. The cobblestones were worn, cracked, and beneath them, a faint glow traced the old Roman roads. Figures appeared along the streets, soldiers marching in formation, centurions issuing silent orders. The legionnaires seemed to ignore the modern world entirely, yet their presence made the street feel suffocating, a phantom army pressing through time. A group of modern pedestrians passed, oblivious to the ghostly legion. Eleanor tried to warn them, but they saw nothing. The fog shifted, and suddenly, the soldiers were closer, moving along the same paths as the living, their presence brushing against reality. The sound of metal clanging and distant trumpet calls filled the street. Eleanor realized with horror that the legion was replaying a moment of history frozen in time, and anyone caught in their path risked being trapped between the centuries. Eleanor ran, darting down narrow alleys and across old city gates, the echoing steps of the legion chasing her. At Micklegate Bar, she stopped to catch her breath. The centurion she had seen in the cellar was there, standing guard. She froze. The fog swirled around him, his boots pressing against the cobbles but leaving no mark. Slowly, he raised his hand, as if commanding her to follow. Terrified yet compelled, Eleanor stepped forward. In that instant, she was no longer in the modern city. Around her, York had transformed. The streets were lined with timbered houses, the air thick with smoke and the smell of horses and leather. The legion marched past, and the city of Eboracum had returned. For hours, or was it centuries? She wandered with them, observing the soldiers as they patrolled, guarding gates, and responding to unseen threats. She learned their routine, saw their discipline, and felt the weight of their ancient duty pressing down on her. She was a ghost among ghosts. Finally, dawn broke, and the modern world reasserted itself. The fog lifted. The legion vanished. Eleanor found herself standing alone on the empty street, lantern still in hand, heart hammering, breath frozen in the cold morning air. The city was quiet again, normal. Yet she knew the truth. Beneath York, the Legion of Eboracum still marched. And sometimes, if the fog rolled in thick enough and the streets were empty, the distant clink of armor and the faint sound of a trumpet could be heard, reminders that history never truly dies. Eleanor never went back to the cellar alone. But sometimes, when she passed the treasurer's house or walked along Micklegate Bar at night, she could feel their eyes on her, waiting, silent, eternal.